Stack it. Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay. All right, Portland. The story pizza review. We're at Sizzle Pie. This is Burnside and Southwest 10th over by Powell. So here's the deal. Why are we doing this? Why are we here? Huge controversial story in Bloomberg. Kind of took the pizza world by storm, left crybabies and haters weeping in New York and Los Angeles, essentially because Bloomberg, this article called Portland the best pizza city in America. Not New York, not LA, not San Fran, Seattle, Chicago, or Detroit. Portland. And this dominance was decided by two authors who published this massive 1,700-page anthology on this apex cuisine that is pizza. They tried 400 plus pizzas from coast to coast and basically said that Portland has it all, and it does everything that it does at kind of a top-notch level for pizza. One of the local spots mentioned in the article is Red Sauce Pizza on Fremont in Northeast. So we stopped by, we talked to the owner, and the reviews for this pizza online are near perfect. And I will say, so is the owner's response to Portland's ranking.
Well, I think naming Portland the best pizza city in America is controversial because New York, in my opinion, is the best pizza city. I think it's kind of a lot for clickbait because New York is a lot of the reason why people have started pizzerias here. It's got a lot of history. I personally, New York is my favorite pizza city, and just eating a lot of their pizza inspired me to start my own pizzeria.
So is it safe to say that to you, Portland is number 2?
I think we're up there. I would say it's definitely, we could be 2 or 3.
Humble in victory. I love it. I should mention Sizzle Pie also on the list, along with a couple of others. Take a look. Here is the list of their top 8. Tell me, what do you think? Who was left off? Who shouldn't be on it? What's the number 1 in your opinion? Let me know. Tell me what you think. Use the hashtag HeyDan or email us at thestory@kgw.com. Now, there were 2 pizzas that were kind of hinted as the best in the city in this article. So we figured, why don't we put that to the test? So tonight, at the end of the show, we are going to determine best pizza in the city of Portland. All right, so stick around. Let us know what you think. In the meantime, I got to get back to the studio. I got to deliver some pizzas. One bite. Everybody knows the rules. There's still a lot we don't know about the dozens of people who died in the heat wave in Oregon. Part of that is because officials simply won't give us that information.
I think that there are questions about whether there are ways that government could have responded to perhaps prevent some of these deaths.
And if you're wondering how much climate change played a part in our 110 plus degree temps,
the effect is large and dramatic and dangerous.
Oh, and did anyone else forget about that whole vaccine lottery thing? Well, we finally got our $1 million winner, and spoiler alert, it's probably not you. Here's the story.
Not me either. I didn't win $1 million. I know you were all rooting for me.
So the best pizza, it's coming down, it's between a Pizza Shoals and Ken's. If you have a preference, let me know. We're going to test them. We're going to taste test them at the end. We're picking up a couple of pies. We're going to do it in about a half an hour. In the meantime, I got some good news for you, and I got some bad news for you. What do you want to hear first? Bad news? Okay. Well, the bad news is you're probably not the $1 million winner. You're not that woman. That's the governor. That woman. Right there. Unless you are. If you are this woman, congratulations, Chloe Zinda, the student at OSU who just won Oregon's $1 million vaccine lottery jackpot. She's going to use the money to pursue her dreams as an artist, open her own business, and of course, pay off student loans, because everybody has student loans. You got to give some money back to the student loans. What's the good news? Well, the good news is, even if you didn't win $1 million, if you were up for the million, you're protected from COVID. That's good. And the state also hasn't announced the other winners yet. One person in each county is going to get $10,000, and some teenagers are going to get some scholarships. So cross your fingers, all right? The state's still working on contacting those winners. Make sure you answer your phone. You still got a chance. Now let's talk about the big story. So tonight, we want to pull back the curtain a little bit on some of the work that our journalists have been doing behind the scenes. It has a lot to do with what local and state officials are not telling us about all of the people across Oregon who died in the historic heat wave. See, tonight, the state is reporting 115 confirmed and suspected deaths caused by that heat wave. Local officials say 71 of those happened in Multnomah County. So those are the numbers, but I think we need more than the numbers to fully understand this. Maggie Vespa joining us now. It would be so helpful, Maggie, to know the names of these people and specifically where they live to better understand the big picture.
Yeah, those are the details that we're after because, frankly, we want to know what patterns exist in who died and in what conditions. Like, were a lot of these people in government-subsidized housing, government-licensed assisted living facilities or nursing homes? Did they have access to air conditioning? And frankly, did officials do enough to keep them safe? And I'll note, we've learned about some of these deaths, and you've seen our reporting. We've learned about them through kind of one-off sources, like OSHA telling us about a farm worker who died on the job, or Home Forward, an affordable housing operator, confirming they had at least 2 deaths. But those examples aren't enough to ID larger patterns. And if we feel like if we can do that, then we can start talking about solutions and how to better protect people during the next heat wave, which experts say is absolutely coming.
So who do we ask this? Who do we look for this information from? The state, the county, and so far we haven't heard anything new from either of them.
Exactly. It could come from Oregon's medical examiner, or it could come from each individual county. The bulk of these cases were in Multnomah County. So far, the state hasn't gotten back to us. They haven't responded to our requests, so we'll see. But we kind of got a clue as to how this might go from Multnomah County. They sent out a press release yesterday flat out denying our request. They say those are medical records, and per this state law, they're private. So the state law reads, the following public records are exempt from disclosure, meaning they don't have to be released to the public, unless the public interest requires disclosure in the particular instance. And you can see it lists medical examiner reports and autopsies. So just a little history here. That statute was passed in 2009 after a lawyer sued the state trying to get an autopsy report of a man who was shot and killed by a Portland police officer. The ME at the time didn't want to release the records, but a judge ordered that she had to because there was no state law specifically saying that autopsies were private. Everybody always just kind of assumed that they were. So lawmakers passed one. But again, here's the verbiage of that law. They wrote it including an exception. It says these records are private unless the public interest requires disclosure. So again, we're talking about systemic patterns potentially of in who died during this heat wave and frankly what could have been done to save them. So our attorney here at KGW says that public interest point is key.
This is not an unconditional exemption. And if the legislature wanted to say the public shall never receive medical examiners' reports, they absolutely could have done that, but they didn't. And so when we're turning to the heat wave and these deaths, my view is that there is a public interest in the release of these documents. And I think what we know so far suggests that the deaths have been concentrated in certain geographic areas. And I think that there are questions about whether there are ways that government could have responded to perhaps prevent some of these deaths. And I think that in particular is a pretty strong public interest.
Now, we should note, officials are offering up some information. We got deaths by zip code last week, and you can see that map that we put together here. And then the county is promising more about kind of general locations where people died, the types of housing they were in, that sort of thing. But we really want these specifics because also in every case where we have gotten a name and we have gotten those details, we've already seen change or at least calls for change. In the case of the farm worker, OSHA has now enacted new rules to keep workers safe. And in the case of Home Forward, they've already said that they're reviewing what happened. And the director of Home Forward says he thinks Congress should allocate more money to make sure affordable housing units have air conditioning. So we believe the details matter and we're definitely pressing to get them.
Okay, keep pressing.
Will do.
Thanks, Maggie. Meantime, there's an article in the New York Times that we think is worth your time. It talks about how groups of scientists have already determined that the extreme heat wave in the Pacific Northwest was driven by climate change. In fact, they say those record-breaking temperatures would have been, quote, virtually impossible without climate change. Now, usually it takes a lot of time to definitively say if certain weather events like that were caused directly from climate change. But this is part of a new field of research called rapid attribution. And the goal is to study the connection
connection as fast as possible to ward off false claims by climate change deniers. And we spoke to one of the researchers involved in the study. Michael Weiner is a senior scientist at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory.
This one was very difficult because the temperature records were broken by unprecedented amounts. I don't believe anybody would have expected temperatures, in the high 110s and the low 120s in Canada or in Washington State or Oregon. I don't think. I certainly didn't believe that such things were possible with the amount of climate change that we've had. Now, that being said, as you get out to the end of the century, under future scenarios where we don't do anything about reducing our carbon dioxide emissions because of fossil fuel consumption, then those kinds of temperatures then become would have been expected to be fairly common. I think what this work tells us is that we may have been a little overly conservative, and that it would appear that the situation is somewhat worse, in my opinion, than we previously thought. It's a teachable moment for the public in that climate change is here and now and dangerous. It's also a teachable moment for climate scientists like me that that we don't know as much about heat waves as we might have thought we did. And so that is one of the motivations for extreme weather event attribution studies such as this one.
Weiner says they basically had to do 6 months of work in 10 days. Now, the study is not peer-reviewed, but the techniques that they used are. They looked at 21 different computer simulations made up of a bunch of climate databases and models from around the world. They then compared that to extreme heat waves that we experienced, to what the temperatures would have been in a hypothetical greenhouse gas-free world. Basically, if the Industrial Revolution had never happened and humans weren't releasing CO2 into the air every day. Now, usually when police shoot and kill someone around here, the investigation takes about a month and a half or so on average. But we've been following a case in Portland that's taken more than a year without any answers. And tonight we finally got the details about what happened. Also, we're going to take a look at Oregon's latest strategy to fight COVID mutations involving vaccinating these tiny little animals raised on fur farms. When the story continues. Welcome back. It was a close call. It was all the way over there. The director yelled, "Dan, get back in front of the camera." So here I am, and out of breath. Thank you. I was checking emails. I was looking through comments, people weighing in on what's the best pizza in town. We're going to make a decision between Ken's and a Pizza Shoals, which apparently are two of the best in the entire city, and what has been determined the best pizza city in the country. Is it all debatable? Yes. Do we care? No. We're going to determine it at the end of the show. Please let me know what you like to eat. Give me some recommendations. Use the hashtag HeyDan. I also want to remind everybody about our Hey Help campaign. We're asking you to consider donating, please, to the Blanche Shea House. They do some really great work in this city with the people who are living on the streets of Portland. They do incredible work, especially during this heat wave. They were handing out water and ice to the homeless population, and they have a lot of fantastic programs all the time. They offer free meals in downtown Portland. They even have some recovery programs with peer support for people wishing to pursue a sober life and get things back on track. If you'd like to donate, and trust me, they can use the donations, just open the camera on your phone, point it at the QR code on your screen, or you can go to kgw.com/heyhelp. So, I learned a lot about minks lately. You know minks? Did you know that people still buy mink coats? You know what I mean? I didn't realize that. I didn't know it was still a thing. I didn't know that there was a big market for the whole, give me the Joe Namath at the Super Bowl look. Technically, I think that's coyote, but you get my point. It's the exact opposite of cool. It actually looks quite warm. And maybe that's your kind of style. Maybe you looked at that and you thought, dude, I would kill it in that. I would look great. Literally, right? If it is, you'd certainly be supporting local businesses. Because I also learned that Oregon is one of the top producers of mink pelts in the U.S. This is a mink, by the way, when it's not in coat form. It's a weasel. It's like a ferret or a badger. More like an otter, really, because it does spend a lot of time in the water when they're in the wild. But when they're in mink farms, they spend a lot of time in cages, really close to other minks. And in Oregon, we have a lot of them, about 500,000 in 11 different farms. Now, look, I know this is a pretty hot button issue for a lot of people. And I also know there are a lot of decent folks supporting their families in this line of work. And before minks are killed and turned into jackets for rich people, they're often categorized as some of the most cared for farm animals in the world. I mean, the healthier they are, the prettier they are. So much so that in Oregon, they're getting the COVID vaccine, which is more to protect us than them, but I'll go on here. The state is making farmers vaccinate their minks with 2 doses, just like us. Apparently, the minks can catch and transmit COVID very easily, and they can pass mutated versions of it back to humans, which is scary, especially considering there was an outbreak at an Oregon farm back in November. They placed the animals in quarantine, and then, while they were in quarantine, one of them escaped. It got out. It was later found out in the wild with the mutated virus that could have been passed to other weasels or to other types of animals. Maybe if something ate it, and then the virus could potentially mutate again. And that could have been a really bad thing. Now, fortunately, researchers determined that there was no spread in the wild, but the fear of that possibility has not been taken lightly and has led to dramatic steps in other parts of the world. After an outbreak in Denmark that did spread to humans, the country decided to cull 17 million minks, devastating its fur industry and killing 17 million animals almost overnight. The mass graves were so big that they built up gas and forced hundreds of thousands of mink bodies to rise through the surface of the ground of these shallow graves near lakes where people swim and get drinking water. So we're vaccinating our mink farms, which is the responsible thing to do. It will save the industry potentially from a devastating outbreak that could ruin businesses, which is great news for farmers. For the minks, still not so great. All right, let's count some vaccines. More than 2.5 million human Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose, according to the CDC. And that works out to be 59.3% of our total population. So that's everybody, all kids and adults. Even though kids under 12 aren't eligible for the vaccine yet, we wanted to give you an idea of how much of the state's total population, everybody, is getting vaccinated. Same in Washington. More than 4.73 million people have gotten at least their first dose, according to the CDC, which works out to be 62.2% of their population. All right, keep sending in the questions and comments, especially your thoughts on pizza, the best food around, because we're putting Portland's top pies to the test. We're going to determine once and for all who makes the best pizza in the city, which is apparently the best pizza city in America. So this is basic. We're determining the best pizza on the planet Earth. It's a bit of a stretch, but we're going to do it next. Now, we've got an update for you on a story that we've been following for some time. Today, a Multnomah County grand jury cleared a Gresham police officer of any criminal wrongdoing after he shot and killed a man while on duty. The case goes back to May of 2020, and before today, police have released very few details. Let's bring in investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi right now, who has been following this case for us. And Kyle, police released body camera video today. Can you walk us through it?
Right, Dan. And first, we should warn folks, the video is graphic, but it's important. Today, Gresham police released that body cam video along with a detailed timeline of what happened. According to police, Gresham officers were helping out Portland police during protests last summer when officers responded to a disturbance call in southeast Portland. Home security video shows that Israel Berry was upset after a dispute. We can see him drive recklessly up and down the street. Then when officers arrived, Berry drove within a few feet of Gresham officer James Doyle. Officer Doyle fired 7 shots, hitting and killing Berry. The whole incident, it took 6 seconds, according to investigators. We'll actually play you a portion of that now.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
A grand jury determined the officer was justified in using deadly force. The DA's office is asking that grand jury transcript be released to the public.
Now, Kyle, this is a story you've been on for a while, and one of the reasons why is because it was taking so long to get details about this case and to see that body camera video. Why did it take so long?
It has taken an unusually long time for the DA's office to investigate this case, really for a couple of reasons. One, Mike Schmidt had just taken office when he was handed the case. Then he looked to the Oregon Department of Justice to help investigate the case before finally appointing an outside lawyer to assist. Then today, the grand jury again cleared the officer of any criminal wrongdoing. So Gresham Police, they released that body cam video for the public to see for the very first time, also that detailed timeline of what happened. The question really is, should that information, including that body cam video, have been released much earlier? Remember, this incident, it happened more than a year ago.
Right. All right. Kyle Aboshi, appreciate the update. And folks at home, if you have questions for Kyle, please keep sending them in. Use that hashtag #HeyDan. Got a couple people asking about the vaccine lottery. Again, we have the $1 million winner today. We're going to start hearing who the $10,000 winners are from each county coming up pretty soon as well. And get a lot of people writing in about pizza, what they like. So a little bit of a controversy here at the station. People are saying best pizza, flying pie. I mean, that's probably the most prevalent one that we saw showing up on social media. But a couple people in the newsroom were like, no, man, the place is no good. So I got to try it for myself. Maybe it's like a love-hate kind of relationship people would have with that one. Blind Onion Pizza, Northeast Broadway got some love. American Dream Pizza. I didn't realize there were so many pizza places. Pizzeria La Sorrentina in Vancouver. Not really Portland, but I'll give it a shout out. No problem there. A few more. Char Pizza. Let me know. Giants Pizza. We have like 1 million pizza places, but it's come down to these two. Excuse me for a moment. These are the pizzas in question right now. We got Ken's Artisan Pizza. Okay. And then we also have a Pizza Shoals. Two very popular pies. Named in the Bloomberg article as the two best in the city they named the best in the country. So there's nothing left to do except for good char on the bottom. You see that? Ray's. I've never had Ray's. Ray's is good. Yeah. 10 seconds. What did I say? Ray's? People are in my ear talking to me. I'm eating pizza. It's Ken's. Not Ray's. That's New York. We're not allowed to talk about that right now. All right, then lastly, a Pizza Shoals. I've been here 1 million times. It's tough. Maybe I got to go to Ken's sometime down the line, but every time I go into Pizza Shoals, they're so nice to me. They're nice to my kids. My kids are always bad while they're in there. They're like fighting with each other and dropping food on the floor and spilling drinks. Nobody ever makes us feel bad about it. So, Pizza Shoals, you're getting the win. You're getting the win tonight from me. Ken's, it's like picking between my kids. I could barely do it, but that's the victor tonight. If you think I'm wrong, let me know. Use the hashtag #HeyDan. Isn't it pleasant to see somebody talk with their mouth full on TV? It's Friday. I'm doing my best up here. I'll see you guys next time.